more than one angle to any situation. When was the last time you made an immediate decision about a person or a situation? We all do it, even when we try not to. It's part of our survival mechanism so that we can quickly assess for danger and decide what to do next. But are we seeing what's really going on? Take a look at this. With my first look, I saw a man making a pretty impressive jump. But if you look again, in the top right-hand corner, you can see where the pillar meets the ground, which changes your perspective to show that actually he's lying on the floor as if he's making the jump. What we think we see on the first look isn't always accurate. Sometimes we have to look at what's going on around the personal situation to see what's really happening. All too often, we see criticisms of young people based on something they've done, said, or been, without anybody asking the question why. And then, in the age of the internet, where negativity spreads quicker than positivity, before you know it, every teenager is self-absorbed, apathetic, or one I've heard recently, toxic. The Lancet Journal of Psychiatry recently published a report showing that 1 in 3 young people experience some form of trauma by the age of 18. They define trauma as events involving danger of death, injury, or sexual violation. 1 in 3 by the age of 18. So, what are the things that we have going on that we can't see? Take a look at the FedEx logo. This logo's been in our faces since 1994. We see it all the time, and we know that they're a delivery service. But how many times have you seen the arrow between the E and the X? And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like FedEx, we all have our own arrow. Mine is sometimes incredibly well hidden, and you'd have no idea how I'm feeling. And other times it sits right on my sleeve. Young people are especially good at hiding their arrows. They withdraw or lash out in behaviour that's seen as typically teen, self-destructive, or just bad. And they're especially good at hiding it from their parents, who get blinded, understandably, by those behaviours and dealing with them, and it prevents them from looking for those arrows, those real issues. But what would we see if we really tried to see what was going on? If we all tried to see those arrows? Look at the young person with their hood up, head down, eyes darting around. You might see someone trying to hide suspicious behaviour, or you could see someone trying to hide themselves because they desperately fear the outside world and they're too scared to see or be seen. Look at the male in his late teens trying to get children to feed animals with him at the local park. You might see a potential danger, or you could see someone with a learning need who is at their happiest when they're with animals and they just want to share their knowledge. Look at the girl who hangs around at the park every week with a different boy smoking and drinking. You might see her as sexually immoral or trouble. Or you could see someone desperately seeking affection and someone to love her because she's never felt love from anyone before. To see is to understand, and it's exactly what we have the frontal lobes in our brains for, to reason and assess what's really going on. Young people are still developing that part of their brain, until about the age of 25. So they make comments that they probably don't mean. They make choices that we wouldn't consider to be the wisest, and they take risks because, let's face it, it's fun. They're exploring their boundaries and limitations. They're exploring themselves and their environments. And then you add in all those vulnerabilities, the things that we can't see that they have going on. Remember, there's always more than one angle to any situation. By having a better understanding of young people, we can begin to challenge some of the judgments that they face. I once worked with a young girl who had a very alternative style. She often hid behind it because she felt so uncomfortable around people. With ripped jeans, baggy hoodie and short, really brightly dyed hair, she seemed to embrace her individuality. She told me that one day her and her mum were shopping and a woman turned to her own child and said, "Don't you dare ever turn out like that," pointing to this young person. This young person who is kind and caring, despite fighting so hard against her own social anxieties. She's clever and polite and an absolute pleasure to be around. But this lady didn't see any of that. She just saw her style and she made a judgment. And these judgments stick so deeply in the adolescent brain, and they hurt. And they begin to form their core beliefs about who they are. I wanted to set up a youth club in my village a while ago because there was so much negativity surrounding the youth. I was told I wouldn't be able to use the youth centre because they would ruin it. Actually, at the time, my husband was working in the local school and he spoke to the village teens and they all said that they would love to have something for them to do, that they just messed around because they were bored. Teenagers have a wonderful way with technology. Speak to your local youth. Speak to your teenage neighbours. Find out what they're interested in. And if you don't understand something, ask them about it. We have such a wealth of knowledge at our fingertips now about everything and anything. The older you are, the more you had to learn how to access it. Young people have a seemingly innate knowledge of that technology. Whatever it is, they can access it a lot quicker than we can, and we can learn from them. So what else can we do to bring about change? Well, on an individual and most basic level, we can all smile and greet young people. They feel ignored and misunderstood. And it's just being confirmed to them every day. There's a man who lives down the road from me who sits in his window every single morning to wave to all the children as they go to school. The amount of times I've seen teenagers with their heads down, ignoring the world, who look up and over to his window with a big smile on their face as they wave to him, before resuming their head down walk to school. It's really beautiful to see. They feel valued by him, and they know that it brightens his day. It even brightens my day when I see it. I recently had a conversation about mansplaining, as I didn't really know what it was. When I found out that it was an explanation by a man, typically to a woman, in a manner that was regarded as condescending and patronising, it made me think that this happens a lot to our teenagers, and especially vulnerable teenagers and those with learning needs from adults. So I looked up the hashtag adultsplaining. All I'll say is it's definitely a thing, and young people hate it. If you think they aren't making themselves clear, ask them what they mean. Have a conversation. If you think that they don't understand something, have a conversation and discuss it with them. Don't just make assumptions. At a community level, young people need to feel valued and accepted. So, consult with your local youths. Find out what they want to achieve in their community and facilitate that with them. Don't assume they won't get involved. One of the core values of resilience is to have a sense of belonging. And what better belonging is there than in your local community with something designed with you in mind? but please don't make assumptions. Remember, young people don't like to be told what they want or need. If they can take ownership of a project or an event, they will. They'll want to see it through. They'll want to make it work. And it will give them a sense of power and responsibility in the community. By doing all of this and following it through, we can raise the self-esteem, skills, and resilience of young people, which improves their mental health. This, in turn, gives your community a younger perspective and creates a vibrant space for all. You could have an amazing new future-proof community space. Your plain roadsides could be decorated up with artwork to add vibrancy, or planted up just to look pretty. Your dilapidated buildings could be improved and create a hub for younger people to teach older people about technology. The list is truly endless, especially when you allow young people to believe that anything is possible. Being accepted and being part of the community leads to stronger and more resilient young people, which leads to hope for the future. And where there's hope, there are high aspirations for themselves, and more importantly, the belief that they can achieve them. And we could all be a part of that. Thank you.